If you can't even keep this place clean, maybe you shouldn't even bother having the baby. My hands froze in mid-wipe on the kitchen counter. I turned to face Ed, my heart racing. How could you even say that? That's cruel and unforgivable. Ed shrugged, not even looking at me as he continued scrolling through his phone. I'm just stating the facts, Natalie. Look around. This place is a mess. I stood there, stunned, my eyes filling with tears. I've been sick. The doctor said it could be stress-related. He finally looked up, raising an eyebrow. Stress? From what? You work part-time and still can't manage a clean house. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I put the cleaning rag down. I teach full-time, Ed, and it's not just the house, it's everything. Everything like what? His tone was dismissive as he put his phone away and walked toward the living room. Everything like you constantly undermining me, I whispered, more to myself than to him. But he heard. Don't start with that psycho babble again. He plopped down on the couch. You always make mountains out of molehills. I drew a shaky breath, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest. This isn't a molehill, Ed. My health is getting worse, and it's like you don't even care. He laughed, a harsh, unkind sound. Then go see a doctor. But don't expect me to handle everything around here. That's your job. Anger flared, momentarily overpowering the fatigue that had settled deep in my bones. My job? We're supposed to be partners, Ed. And now I find out there's a baby on the way, and all you can do is criticize me? He shot up from the couch, his face flushed. Don't lay this on me. You wanted a baby. You got your wish. I watched him storm out, the front door slamming behind him. The echo reverberated through the house, leaving me in a deafening silence. I sank into a chair, tears spilling onto my cheeks. The love I once felt was slowly turning into something dark and unrecognizable. But maybe it had always been this way, and I was just starting to see it clearly. Images of happier times flashed through my mind. Our wedding day, the first night in our new home, the joyful laughter we shared. Had it all been a facade, a pristine cover over a slowly decaying foundation? I wiped my tears and stood up, my resolve hardening. If Ed wanted to see me as weak, he was in for a surprise. I picked up the phone and dialed the clinic, setting an appointment for the next day. The night was long and restless. Every creak of the house made me jump, fearing Ed's return would bring another round of accusations. But he didn't come back. As the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, I found a moment's peace. I brushed my hair and prepared for school, determined to maintain some semblance of normalcy. In class, I moved through the lesson plans with a robotic precision, my mind shadowed by the morning's argument. My students sensed my distraction, but they didn't pry. At least here, I knew where I stood. Returning home that evening, I found Ed sitting at the kitchen table, a glass of whiskey in hand, eyes glazed over. He didn't say a word as I walked in. The silence between us thickened, growing almost tangible. I'm going to the doctor tomorrow, I said quietly, mostly for my own affirmation. He grunted in response, not looking up. I sighed, the weight of our fractured relationship pressing down on me. For now, I had to focus on getting better, for myself and the baby. So I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, feeling a mixture of dread and determination. Tomorrow would bring more answers, and I hoped a path forward. The clinic's waiting room was quiet, save for the occasional cough or rustle of a magazine. Ed sat beside me, flipping through his phone. His presence was more out of obligation than concern. I felt a pit in my stomach, but I didn't have the energy to confront him again. Not yet. Natalie Evans? The nurse called my name, and I stood up, giving Ed a quick look. He sighed, pocketing his phone, and followed me into the examination room. The doctor greeted us with a warm smile. Good to see you, Natalie. I understand you've been feeling unwell? I nodded, grateful for her kindness. Yes, it's been rough, and I found out I'm pregnant. The doctor raised an eyebrow and began examining me, asking questions about my symptoms. Ed sat in the corner, his arms crossed, looking disinterested. It made my skin crawl. After a thorough checkup, the doctor looked serious. Natalie, your symptoms seem quite severe for early pregnancy. We'll need to run some tests to rule out other issues. Ed's impatience was evident. How long will that take? The doctor glanced at him briefly before turning back to me. A few days at most. In the meantime, rest is crucial. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. Thank you, doctor. As we left the clinic, Ed's face was a mask of frustration. So now what? More excuses to laze around? Anger bubbled up, but I kept my voice steady. It's not an excuse, Ed. I'm trying to get better for the baby. He scoffed, unlocking the car. Fine, just try to keep the house in order, will you? The drive home was silent. I stared out the window, watching the world blur by. Once inside, I went straight to bed, exhaustion taking over. The next morning, Ed's attitude shifted slightly. As we sat down for breakfast, he attempted a smile. So, how are you feeling today? I blinked, unsure of how to respond. Still pretty tired, but I'm trying. He nodded, almost sympathetically. Good, because we need to get through this together. For a moment, I believed him. But as the days passed and my health deteriorated, his patience wore thin. Every time I felt sick or needed rest, his comments cut deeper. Morning sickness shouldn't be this bad, he muttered one evening, not looking at me. Maybe it's all in your head. I felt a pang of doubt. What do you mean? He shrugged. My mom said she didn't have it this bad when she was pregnant. Maybe you're just more sensitive. I clenched my fists under the table. I'm not making this up, Ed. The doctor said it could be more than just morning sickness. He waved his hand dismissively. We'll see. Later that night, unable to sleep, I wandered into the living room to find Ed on a video call with his mom. Karen. Hi, Karen, I said weakly, trying to muster a smile. She gave me a tight smile, her eyes quickly shifting away. Hello, Natalie. How are you feeling? Not great, I admitted. The fatigue is overwhelming. Karen nodded, her expression unreadable. Well, just hang in there. Things will improve if you take care of yourself. I forced a polite nod and retreated to the bedroom, feeling more alone than ever. Their whispers and doubtful looks tore at me, but I knew I had to stay strong. There was a tiny life depending on me now. Days later, the phone rang, and I answered with a trembling hand. Natalie, it's Dr. Lawson. The tests confirmed you're pregnant, but your symptoms indicate hyperemesis gravidarum. It's more severe than typical morning sickness. Relief and fear mingled in my chest. What's the next step? Hydration and rest. If it worsens, we may need to consider hospitalization. I thanked her and hung up, bracing myself to face Ed. He met my eyes with a mixture of annoyance and concern. So, what's the verdict? I took a deep breath. It's more serious than just morning sickness. His face hardened. Great, just what we needed. Tears burned at the corners of my eyes. We need to stick together, Ed. He looked away, retreating to his phone. Yeah, sure. The fragile hope I had clung to shattered, leaving me exposed to the harsh reality of my situation. But I wouldn't let it break me. For the sake of our unborn child, I vowed to keep fighting, even if that meant doing it alone. Weeks passed and my condition worsened. Each morning was a struggle, and even the simplest tasks felt monumental. Ed's patience had all but disappeared. One evening, as I lay curled up on the couch, he stomped into the living room. Natalie, you really need to pull it together. This can't go on. I blinked, tears forming. I'm doing my best. The doctor said it's hyperemesis gravidarum, remember? Ed rolled his eyes. Yeah, but half of it's probably just in your head. You always loved the drama. I clutched a pillow, trying to steady my voice. That's not fair, Ed. I'm trying to take care of myself and our baby. He snorted, looking at his phone. Maybe if you weren't so focused on playing the victim, things would be different. Every word stung, but I refused to let him see just how much. I needed to keep my strength for me and for our baby. My days became a cycle of nausea and fatigue, making it hard to keep up with work and household chores. One afternoon, struggling to grade papers, I glanced over at Ed's laptop on the kitchen table. Its screen displayed a text conversation. I hesitated, but then moved closer, curiosity and suspicion gnawing at me. As I read through the messages, my heart sank. Ed and Karen were talking about me, their words dripping with contempt and condescension. She's making everything harder than it needs to be, Ed had written. Karen's response was even worse. You should think about what's best for you long term. She's clearly unfit to handle this. I stepped back, feeling a wave of disbelief and anger. Ed glanced over and caught my expression. What are you looking at? I shook my head, too upset to respond. Nothing. Just trying to understand why you both think so little of me. He stood up, his face a mask of irritation. Don't twist this, Natalie. We're just worried about you. A bitter laugh escaped me. Worried? It sounds more like you're setting me up to fail. Ed threw his hands up in frustration. Why would I do that? You're paranoid. Feeling drained, I walked away, leaving him to stew. As I lay in bed that night, I replayed their messages over and over in my mind. I knew I had to be cautious. The next day, struggling yet determined, I dragged myself to work. As I tried to focus on my students, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ed, but I hesitated before opening it. With a heavy heart, I finally read it. Meeting Karen and Tessa later, don't wait up. My blood ran cold. Tessa? The name was vaguely familiar, and the fact that he was meeting her with his mother made it worse. My suspicions grew darker. When I got home later that evening, Ed was already back, comfortably ensconced in front of the TV. I approached him, gripping my phone tightly. Who's Tessa, Ed? He looked up, casually. Oh, just a friend my mom introduced me to. She's harmless. A knot tightened in my stomach. And you thought it was fine to meet her without telling me? He shrugged. Didn't think you'd care. You're always so wrapped up in your own issues. The words hit like a punch. My own issues? I'm fighting to stay healthy for this baby, Ed. He sighed, clearly bored of the conversation. Whatever, Natalie. Just don't make everything about you. As he turned back to the TV, I felt a deep resolve form within me. I had to protect myself and my unborn child. The more I uncovered about Ed and Karen's plans, the more determined I became to fight back. There was no more room for doubt, only action. I needed to be vigilant, to gather evidence and secure a way out, for the sake of both my future and my babies. One rainy afternoon, feeling more exhausted than usual, I decided to take a nap. But before I could lie down, I noticed Ed's laptop sitting unattended on the dining table. My gut told me to look closer. I opened it, prayerfully hoping I was wrong. In the email inbox, a chain of messages between Ed and Karen immediately caught my eye. With trembling hands, I clicked on the most recent one. The subject line read, Plan for Natalie. Karen's email was straightforward and chilling. You need to stay strong, Ed. Natalie clearly can't handle the pregnancy, let alone motherhood. Push her to quit her job. Once she's home, it'll be easier to convince her that she's unfit to continue this charade of a marriage. Tessa will be a far better match for you. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stifle a cry. My heart pounded violently as I reached for my phone and took pictures of the messages. I wanted to scream, to confront Ed right then and there, but a voice inside warned me to stay calm and gather more evidence first. Ed walked in just as I finished snapping the last photo. What are you doing? That's private. Gathering my courage, I stood tall. I saw the emails, Ed. I know what you and Karen are planning. His eyes narrowed. Don't overreact, Natalie. You're misunderstanding everything. No, I'm not, I replied, feeling my face flush with anger. You both think I'm unfit and want me out of the picture. You've even introduced Tessa into our lives without telling me. Ed stepped closer, his expression dark. Those emails mean nothing. It's just talk. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just talk? I pointed at the laptop. You're plotting behind my back, trying to break me down. How can you be so heartless? His gaze turned cold. Because you've become impossible to live with. This isn't what I signed up for. The weight of his words pressed down on me. I backed away, needing space, desperately wanting to be anywhere but there. You've made your choice clear, Ed. I guess I've got to make mine. Without another word, I grabbed my keys and fled the house. I drove aimlessly for a while, tears blurring my vision. Eventually, I stopped at a park, the rain pelting down in a relentless downpour. I had to do something. Any action to break the paralysis of betrayal. Pulling out my phone, I called my sister Emily. Her voice was a lifeline. Natalie, what's wrong? Choking back sobs, I recounted the discovery. He and Karen want me gone, Em. They've been planning this all along. Silence, then a sharp intake of breath. I'm coming over right now. Hang tight. Don't go back there, okay? I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Okay. When Emily arrived, she hugged me fiercely. You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out, I promise. Together we drove to her apartment. She made me some tea while I explained everything in more detail, showing her the pictures of the emails. This is enough to take legal action, she said, scrolling through the images. We need to move strategically. Wiping my tears, I nodded. I won't let them win. Not now, not ever. Emily's eyes sparkled with determination. Good. We'll get the best lawyer, and we'll fight this. She contacted our parents, Patricia and Thomas, filling them in on the situation. Their anger and concern echoed through the phone. We'll confront them together, Patricia said firmly. They won't get away with this. It was a small comfort, but a crucial one. Knowing I had my family's support strengthened my resolve. The battle ahead was daunting, but I was ready to face it head-on. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting my unborn child from the toxic grasp of Ed and Karen. The journey for justice was just beginning. With my family by my side, I felt a glimmer of hope piercing through the storm. Returning to the house felt like walking into a den of lions. Ed was lounging on the couch, remote in hand. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "We need to talk," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. He sighed and turned the TV off. "About what now?" Taking a deep breath, I faced him. "About everything, about the emails." He rolled his eyes. "I thought we went over this already." "It's all in your head." "No, Ed," I said firmly. "It's not. I have proof. You can't gaslight me anymore." His face twisted into a sneer. "And what are you going to do? Run crying to your family?" Just then, Emily walked in, followed closely by our parents, Patricia and Thomas. Ed's eyes widened in surprise. "What's this? A family intervention?" Patricia stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "We're here to support Natalie and hold you accountable for your actions." Thomas's voice was low but firm. "This ends now, Ed." Ed scoffed, clearly taken aback but trying to play it cool. "Fine. What do you want?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the pictures of the emails. "You can't deny this, Ed. You and Karen have been plotting to break me." He glanced at the images, face flushing with anger and embarrassment. "You invaded my privacy. That's illegal." Emily stepped in, her voice cutting through the tension. "Not when it's evidence of you manipulating and emotionally abusing your pregnant wife." Ed looked around, seemingly searching for an escape. "You're all blowing this out of proportion." Thomas's voice was slow and deliberate. "You should listen to what Natalie has to say." "My only concern is for the baby's safety," Patricia added, her eyes drilling into Ed. Desperation flickered across Ed's face. "Fine, what do you want from me? A divorce?" Before I could answer, a wave of dizziness hit me. I stumbled back, vision blurring. Emily was at my side in an instant. "Nat, are you okay?" The room seemed to tilt and everything went dark. I woke up to the sterile smell of antiseptic and the soft hum of hospital machines. Emily was sitting by my side, worry etched into her face. "You're awake." "Thank God." "What happened?" I whispered, my throat dry. "You collapsed. The stress was too much. But don't worry, the baby is fine. The doctors want to keep you for a few days to make sure everything is stable." Tears filled my eyes, but I quickly wiped them away. "Where's Ed?" Emily clenched her jaw. "He's at home. Mom and Dad are handling him. You don't need to worry about that right now." Just then, Patricia and Thomas walked in. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" Patricia asked, gently squeezing my hand. "I'll be okay, Mom," I said, forcing a smile. "We're going to take care of everything," Thomas said, his expression resolute. "You just focus on getting better." As I lay there, surrounded by my family's support, my resolve hardened. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting my child from a toxic environment. I had to stay strong, not just for myself, but for the future that awaited us. "Rest now," Emily said softly, pulling the blanket up to my chin. "We've got your back." I closed my eyes, letting the exhaustion take over. The battle ahead would be difficult, but with my family by my side, I knew we could face anything. Sitting in the hospital room, I felt the surge of determination mixing with the hum of medical machines around me. Emily leaned in, whispering, "Mom and Dad are setting up a meeting with Ed and Karen. They'll present the evidence." I caught her worried eyes. "What about me?" "You stay here and get better. We'll handle it." Her confidence was a balm to my frazzled nerves, and I nodded, allowing myself to trust in my family. The next day, Emily filled me in on the details. "They're meeting at the house this afternoon. It's better if you're not there." The anticipatory tension thickened the air. I squeezed her hand, silently thanking her. She left, determined to be there with our parents. At home, Patricia and Thomas waited in the living room, their expressions stone cold. Ed arrived first, his steps heavy with reluctance. Karen followed shortly after, her posture prim and dismissive. Thomas stood up. "Ed, Karen, we need to discuss the situation." Karen sniffed, clearly unimpressed. "I don't see why we're here." Patricia showed the pictures of the emails on her tablet. "This is why." Her voice dripped with controlled anger. Karen squinted at the screen and then looked at Ed. "Explain this." Ed stammered, his face flushed. It's not what it looks like. Oh, it's exactly what it looks like, Emily cut in, stepping out of the shadows. You've been plotting against Natalie. We have your conversations with Karen and even with Tessa. Karen's eyes narrowed. I was only trying to help. Natalie is not fit for motherhood. Patricia's eyes flashed with fury. Who are you to decide that? Karen's voice grew sharp. I'm the one who cares about Ed's future. Natalie is a burden and dragging Ed down. Emily stepped in front of her mother. That burden is carrying your grandchild. Ed tried to defend himself. Mom pressured me. She made me do it. Karen's face contorted. Don't put this on me, Ed. Turning to Patricia, she hissed. Natalie has always been weak. You think she can raise a child in her condition? Thomas spoke with a steely calm. Natalie is stronger than you'll ever know, and she has something you'll never have. Our support. Karen's face turned red, but before she could retort, Patricia continued, We're no longer discussing what's best. We're taking action. Thomas nodded. Natalie's staying with us. You won't go near her until this is resolved. Ed opened his mouth to argue, but Emily cut him off. And if you do try anything, we have enough to take this to court. Karen glared at Ed. You've failed. You couldn't handle a simple plan. The room fell silent, the reality sinking in. Ed, looking defeated, realized he was trapped. Patricia stood, leading the charge. We're not here for threats. We're here to ensure Natalie's safety. Thomas added, voice stern, You will face the legal consequences of your actions. Ed finally sat down, looking more like a child caught misbehaving than an adult in a serious plot. Karen's confidence wavered, cracks forming in her controlled persona. Patricia's voice softened with a resolve of finality. This meeting is over. The walkout felt like victory's first taste. They returned to the hospital, where I waited anxiously. How did it go? I asked, as they entered my room. Patricia smiled sadly but with pride. We handled them. You and the baby are safe. Tears welled up as I whispered, Thank you. Thomas placed a protective hand on my shoulder. We'll get through this, Natalie, together. With each step of our plan solidifying, I felt stronger. Surrounded by my unwavering family, I was ready for whatever came next. This battle was just beginning, but I was armed with determination and love. Days after the confrontation, I returned to Emily's apartment, my sanctuary. Emily had been gathering more evidence. She was relentless, diving into Ed's professional misdeeds. Look at this, she said one evening, pointing to her laptop. Emails and messages about workplace harassment. Ed's been abusing his position at work, too. My eyes widened. This could ruin him. Emily nodded, determination in her eyes. Exactly. We'll give this to his company and make sure they know who he really is. I called Patricia to update her on our findings. We have more evidence, Mom. This time about his work. Good, she replied. Let's make sure he pays for everything. The next morning, Patricia and I walked into Ed's office building, armed with printed emails and records. We were directed to the HR department, where a stern-looking woman named Janet greeted us. How can I help you today? She asked, her tone professional. I took a deep breath. We have evidence of serious misconduct by Edward Evans. She raised an eyebrow. Go on. As we presented the evidence, Janet's expression shifted from skepticism to concern. This is serious. We'll need to conduct a thorough investigation. Patricia added, We expect immediate action. This isn't just about the workplace. It's about his actions affecting our family. Janet nodded, her face grim. We'll start immediately. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. As we left, Patricia squeezed my hand. We just took a major step, Natalie. They won't let him get away with this. Returning to Emily's apartment, I felt a mix of anxiety and relief. Waiting was the hardest part, but having my family by my side made all the difference. A few days later, I received a call from Janet. Natalie, we've concluded our investigation. Ed has been suspended pending further action. His behavior was unacceptable, and we may proceed with termination. Tears welled up in my eyes. Thank you, Janet. This means so much. Hanging up, I turned to Emily. He's been suspended. They're considering terminating him. Emily's face lit up. That's great news. The victory felt surreal, but I couldn't celebrate yet. There was still the divorce and custody battle to face. Our parents had already secured a top-notch attorney. We sat in his office, going over the details. You have a strong case, Natalie, he said, especially with the evidence of abuse and the professional misconduct. We'll push for full custody. Relief washed over me. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. He smiled reassuringly. We'll fight this together. The following weeks were a blur of legal proceedings. Ed tried to defend himself, but his arguments were weak. The evidence was damning. One afternoon, as we exited the courthouse, Ed approached me. His eyes were desperate. Natalie, can't we work this out? I stood tall, my voice firm. You never cared about working it out. You only cared about controlling me. His face twisted with anger. You'll regret this. I met his glare, unflinching. No, Ed, you're the one who'll regret it. I'm done with your games. Emily stepped in, her protective presence a comfort. Get lost, Ed. Natalie deserves better. As Ed walked away, a weight lifted off my shoulders. The battle was arduous, but my resolve had never been stronger. With each passing day, the divorce and custody proceedings moved closer to resolution. Ed's termination from his job sealed his fate. He was left with nothing but the consequences of his actions. I focused on my health and the health of my unborn child, surrounded by my family's unwavering support. The future was uncertain, but I was ready to face it. Finally, the court ruled in my favor. Full custody and the divorce were granted. As I signed the final papers, a sense of liberation filled me. Returning home to my family, I smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. Patricia hugged me tightly. You did it, Natalie. You fought for yourself and your child. Tears of joy streamed down my face. We did it, Mom. Together. Emily chimed in, beaming. Here's to new beginnings. As I looked around at my family, I knew the worst was behind me. The road ahead was filled with challenges, but with their support I could face anything. Together we had turned the tide, securing a brighter future for me and my child. The months rolled by, and my belly grew with each passing week. Life started to feel normal again, filled with preparations for my baby's arrival. Emily, Patricia, and Thomas were my pillars of strength, never leaving my side. One morning, as I stood in the nursery folding baby clothes, Emily came in with a wide grin. Guess what? I found the perfect crib. I looked up, smiling. Really? Where? At this cute boutique downtown. It's on sale too, so let's go get it. Patricia and Thomas insisted on coming with us. At the store, we found a beautiful white crib adorned with delicate patterns. Thomas inspected it carefully. This one's sturdy. Our little Lily will be safe in it. I placed a hand on my belly, feeling Lily's gentle kicks. Thank you, Dad. It's perfect. We bought the crib and brought it home. As Thomas assembled it, the house echoed with laughter and warmth, something I hadn't felt in a long time. In the following weeks, my days became a blend of doctor's appointments, prenatal classes, and family time. Ed's presence in my life had dwindled to that of legal formalities. There was no more room for his toxicity. One late evening, while sipping tea with Patricia and Emily, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Opening it cautiously, I realized it was Tessa. I just found out the truth about Ed and Karen. I'm so sorry for everything they put you through. If you need anything, I'm here. I showed the message to Emily. She frowned, then shrugged. At least she knows now. But be careful, she might still be a part of their scheme. Responding with a simple nod, I texted back, Thanks, Tessa. I appreciate it. Days turned into weeks, and before I knew it, the day arrived. I went into labor in the early hours of the morning. Emily drove me to the hospital, while Patricia and Thomas followed closely behind. As the contractions intensified, I could feel the support, the strength of my family propelling me forward. Hours later, little cries filled the room, and Lily was placed in my arms. Her tiny fingers grasped mine, filling me with unmatched joy and relief. Welcome to the world, Lily, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Patricia and Thomas entered the room, their faces glowing with pride. She's beautiful, Natalie, Patricia said, gently touching Lily's cheek. Thomas grinned. You did great, sweetheart. Emily was next, her eyes misty with happiness. She's perfect, Nat. Just perfect. The next few days at the hospital were a whirlwind of visitors, well wishes, and sleepless nights. But every time I looked at Lily, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose and dedication. This was my new beginning, a fresh start, free from the shadows of my past. One afternoon, the door creaked open, revealing Tessa. She hesitated before stepping inside. Can I come in? Surprised, I nodded. Sure, Tessa. She approached the bed, looking at Lily with tender eyes. She's beautiful, Natalie. Congratulations. Thank you. Tessa took a deep breath. I wanted to apologize in person. I had no idea what Ed and Karen were planning. If I had known... It's okay, I interrupted softly. It's all in the past now. We're moving forward. Relief washed over her face. Thank you. I hope you find nothing but happiness from now on. With a final glance at Lily, Tessa left. I felt a sense of closure, knowing the bridges from my past were behind me. Back home, our family settled into a new routine. Patricia and Emily helped with late-night feedings, while Thomas took charge of keeping the house in order. There were moments of exhaustion, but they were overshadowed by the love and support surrounding us. As Lily grew, so did my strength. The echoes of Ed and Karen's cruelty faded, replaced by the sound of laughter and Lily's coos. Every day I felt more confident, more determined to give both of us the life we deserved. With my loving family by my side, I embraced motherhood and the myriad challenges it brought. Together, we faced each day with resilience and hope, ready to conquer whatever lay ahead. The storm had passed, and a brighter, gentler future awaited us.